Hello there, it's Petey again. Obviously, something different's going on. Right? My background is quite different than what it was. Unfortunately, and I say that because I'm not crazy about this new setup. Maybe it'll, I don't know, maybe it'll grow on me, but right now I'm not crazy about it. But it's what I have to go with. Maybe at some point I will give the story about what's going on with this, but just the short version is I have moved. And I've moved to another state. Clue to which state that is may be in this video somewhere. But anyways, bottom line is I have most of my books are still in their containers, and that's just going to be the case. I don't know for how long, but right now for a while. So this is going to be the new setup. And again, I'm not that crazy about it, but it's just what we got to go with. So, okay. All right, so what I want to do for this video is my first top 10. And I'm not quite sure what I am going to, how I'm going to describe it in the YouTube description, although I guess you all would know that by now. But something like maybe top 10 books I'm embarrassed that I haven't finished yet, or something like that. Because what all these have in common, and real quick, anytime I do a top 10 list, most of the time those lists are not going to be definitive. You know, I'm sure if I could have thought a little bit longer about this, I could have come up with another 10 or something like that. So this list isn't meant to be definitive, and very few of my top lists will be. Anyways, what these have in common, these 10 books, they are all books that I started at some point and just never finished. And for me, at least, I do have a couple of, given my interest, a couple of ones in here that are really, it's really shameful that I haven't finished them. And part of the reason I want this to be my first top 10 is because it will provide me with a good incentive to get these finished. And in fact, 2 of these I am now finishing up, and I'll point out those 2. I sort of debated whether I should take them off since I'm going through them now again to try and finish them, but I decided to leave them. Alright, so that's why I want to do this. That way I can come back, you know, maybe sometime in the future with another video that shows, hey, I got these 10 read, or and maybe even some of these might get a proper review of their own. So we'll see. But, alright. So I have 5 fiction and 5 nonfiction here. Let's do the fiction first. And let's start with, okay, this one here is one I am going through now, and that is Crime. Let me do this. That is Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. Years ago, I attempted to read this. I don't recall exactly when, but I didn't get very far. And and this is going to be the case, I think, for a lot of these works, is not really sure why I gave up, and in many of these cases just, I don't know, something happened, I was transitioning, doing something else, and it just kind of fell by the wayside. I think rarely for any of these, except for maybe one of these, I'll point out, did I get bored with the reading? Now, it may be that some of these just weren't compelling, okay? And that's not, to me, the same thing as boring, but anyways. But Crime and Punishment was one of these. I started many years ago and then never finished. I think I got done with part 1, maybe something like that. And I am now currently, this is one of my readings right now, as I am trying to finish this. So, Crime and Punishment, the first fiction. And then the next one here, this one is maybe the most embarrassing one on here for me, because I'm a fan of Tolkien and Lord of the Rings. I've read Lord of the Rings a few times. I've read The Hobbit a couple times. But I have never finished the Silmarillion. Fool of a took. Many years ago, I would say when I first, so we're talking about my teens, late teens, something like that, when I had read Lord of the Rings and then The Hobbit, I went to try and read this, and I didn't get very far. And that has been so long, I can't really tell you why I stopped. So, but I've always had it in mind to go back and finish this, so I need to do that. So, number 2 fiction that I am embarrassed I have not finished yet is Tolkien's The Silmarillion. Okay, next one here. this one, I'm cheating a little bit on this, okay? And that is all of Shakespeare's works. This is my Norton edition. I love the Norton editions. You'll see a couple, these last two fictions I'm going to talk about in Norton editions too. And that's because you get all those bells and whistles with them, critical essays, annotations, those kinds of things. And so I have read several of Shakespeare's plays, but I had a goal, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago now that I was going to get through this entire thing and read all of Shakespeare's plays, and that just didn't happen. I got stuck somewhere. I don't remember where I got to. I didn't get very far here. At least one of these books I'm going to show you has a bookmark to indicate how far I got, but I really don't remember how far I got here. But anyway, so that's another kind of embarrassing one for me. I have not read all of Shakespeare's works. So again, I know that's kind of cheating because it's a lot of different things. But all right, next one here is I am ashamed to say I did stop because I got bored with it. But we're also talking about 20-year-old me, something like that, and that is Tolstoy's War and Peace, considered one of the greatest novels of all time. And 20-year-old Petey found it boring, and so I very much, and this is probably going to be one I prioritize when I get done with Crime and Punishment. I'm probably going to try and knock this out because I have a feeling that I would enjoy this now, and I would like to say that I read it. Yes, I mean I do fall into that where you do want to say and tell people, yes, I read that classic work and and have some opinions or judgments on it. So, yeah, War and Peace. I got bored with it. All right, last one here. This is the great American novel, Moby Dick. So, in high school, I had to read selections from this, and when I was a kid, I did read the little Bantam edition. Now, this is not that I couldn't find. I've got it somewhere, but I couldn't find it. This is the one that was most handy to me. It was 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And some of you may have grown up reading these as well. In fact, my earliest memories of reading, I think, are these books. And what these are, as it says, illustrated classic editions. So what happens is you get text on one side, and then you get illustrations on the other side. And so I did do that with Moby Dick when I was a kid, and then I read selections in high school, but I've never read it in full. So I guess in a way maybe this doesn't quite count or fit my criterion since I didn't start this and then not finish it. But I think it needs to be on here because I am embarrassed that I haven't ever actually read the full thing. Moby Dick's of Herman Melville's Moby Dick. Okay, that's the fiction. Now to the nonfiction. Let me start with the one that I don't know where it is, and because vast majority of my books are still in their containers, I wasn't sure where it would be, so I did not find it to pull out for this, the physical thing. But what it is Shelby Foote's 3-volume work on the Civil War. I started the first volume several years ago, and I got about 100 pages in it, and I was enjoying it. So this is one where I'm not quite sure why. I think what happened in this case is it was a victim of a move I was making, like now, because I'm not sure where it is, where I had started it, and somehow maybe it got packed up in something I didn't mean for it to get packed up in, because usually when I move, as I did with this move, I'll have all the books out that I know I'm going to be reading before too long. I think that's what happened with it, and maybe it's possible I have just lost the thing, but I'm hoping I can find it because I was enjoying Shelby Foote's classic Civil War trilogy. Now I know that he's kind of fallen off in favor a bit because of some suggestions that maybe he had Confederate sympathies or something like that, but it's one of these strange things with him because he became, I think, his initial notoriety began with the Ken Burns Civil War documentary, which is great. If you haven't seen that, you should check that out. And he's interviewed quite a bit in there, and I think that's how he came to prominence initially. And then I think my notion of things is that he's fallen off a bit, and I think maybe that has to do with his supposed Confederate sympathies. I don't know. But so that's number one of my nonfiction that I didn't finish is Shelby Foote's Civil War, the trilogy, and especially the first book. Okay. Next one is, and this is the other one that I'm currently trying to finish now, and that is Seven Pillars of Wisdom by
Lawrence of Arabia.
So this one I actually listened to like half of it in audiobook form. And as I said, if you watched my video about audiobooks last time, I told you I've got to have this sweet spot. And this did not, I was having trouble keeping track of names and people and such like that when I was trying to listen to this. And so that's why I gave up on it. And I always had the, I always planned to go to the physical copy of this and finish it up. Well, I'm now doing that. So, Seven Pillars of Wisdom, Triumph by
Lawrence of Arabia.
Okay, next one is my next nonfiction that I have not finished. Karl Marx, Das Kapital, Volume 1. I really don't care about Volumes 2 and 3, to be honest with you, because it was Marx's buddy Engels that cobbled those together, basically from some stuff that Marx had written. But I do want to finish this. At one point, I was trying to read most of Marx's works, and I've read a lot of them. And I got to this, and I maybe made it 50 or so pages through this, and then I gave up. And my issue here is that, let me put it this way. So, something that can demotivate me sometimes.
The R2 unit has a bad motivator, look!
Is if, better way to do this, let's compare this with Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations. So Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations is still very readable today, and I think a big part of that is because it is largely a descriptive enterprise. Not that you can't get prescriptions out of it, you certainly can, all things being equal, mercantilism is bad or something like that, okay? But that's not the main thing that Smith is doing in there. Whereas with this, while there is a descriptive project going on, it is largely prescriptive. And the difficulty I have with that is I know enough economics to know that a lot of the things Marx is saying here just don't hold water, with modern economists and economic theory in general, especially things like his labor theory of value. So when you know that, it can be, for me, it can act as a sort of negative incentive, and that is what happened with this. But I need to finish this, in part because philosophy of history is one of my fields, and even though this doesn't directly impact on that, I still should. I need to be able to say that I've read pretty much all of Marx's major work. So hopefully maybe in the next year I will finally knock this out. Alright, now this one is the one I have read, I guess, the most of these. So this is my fourth nonfiction that I haven't finished. That is Douglas Hofstadter's Gödel, Escher, Bach. An Eternal Golden Braid. A metaphorical fugue on minds and machines in the spirit of Lewis Carroll. So, let me try to be brief about this, because I could go on and on about this book. I've read 3/4 of this. And then I stopped. I'm not sure what happened. I'm not sure really why I stopped, but I did read the majority of this. So this work, some of you may be familiar with this. It's an important work in... I gotta be careful here, because it's an important work in the history of cognitive science. Not so much in sort of contributing to research done in cognitive science and AI and things like that, and philosophy of mind, but it was hugely influential in getting many people to go into those fields. I guess that's the best way to put it. And this was a Pulitzer Prize winner, by the way, and it's amazing that something like this got the Pulitzer Prize, because what this is he is weaving, as the names indicate to you, Hofstadter is weaving together three things: Gödel's incompleteness theorems, and I'm not going to go into what that is for this video. That's maybe for another time. The drawings of Escher. I'm sure some of you have seen those drawings, especially if you grew up seeing the movie Labyrinth, as I did. You'll know what I'm talking about there. And then Bach, and so the music of Bach. And what all three have in common is that they play on self-reference in some form or fashion. One of the best indicators of this is Escher's, the two hands that are drawing each other. I'm sure some of you have seen that. And then it's broken into these sort of, and like, as it says here, metaphorical fugue on minds, machines, and spirit of Lewis Carroll. So he repurposes Carroll's famous tortoise and hare dialogues for this book.
What capture?
Oh, you blankety blank title.
And basically, creates new ones that somehow tie into the themes of the chapters and those kinds of things. Look, I knew this was going to be dangerous. I was going to go too long on this. But bottom line is, what Hofstadter is trying to do here is use the notion of self-reference by looking at these three figures and trying to suggest a model for how consciousness or the mind could have arisen. That's the bottom line here. And so now maybe you can see why this would have been influential in getting people turned on to cognitive science, and especially artificial intelligence. So that's this. And because philosophy of mind is one of my areas, I do really need to finish this. But probably what I'll do is just start back over from the beginning on this, because I've been away from it for so long. Okay, my last nonfiction. Maybe this is the most embarrassing of all of these for me, and that is because my favorite philosopher is David Hume, and I've pretty much read all of his stuff with the exception of his long history of England and Scotland and some of his essays. But everything else, okay, I have read, but I have not finished his first major work, Treatise of Human Nature. The thing is, you'll have debates amongst Hume scholars whether this is the best of his works or whether the Inquiry of Human Understanding is, or something like that. Because here's the thing. Later, Hume basically redid this, and he redid this by essentially dividing up into 2 volumes and cutting some things out and sort of restating some things in a different way into the Inquiry for Human Understanding and then the Inquiry for the Principles of Morals, and made them much more readable than what this is. And so that's why you'll have a debate amongst like Hume scholars and such whether this is really the best version of Hume's thought, or if it is those 2 sort of slimmer volumes that are meant to be kind of an edited, redacted version of this. In any case, I wanted to sort of determine that for myself, and you can see how far I got on this one. Here's the bookmark, so I got that far on this. Part of what's going on here with this one is this is an Oxford philosophical text, so this has a lot of annotations, a lot of background material, notes and stuff, and so it's been taking me just a long time to go through it. But anyways, I need to get this finished. As a self-professed Hume fan, it really is embarrassing that I have not finished Hume's first major work, Treatise of Human Nature. All right, hopefully, maybe in the next year or so, I will be able to come back and say I've finished all 10 of these. Certainly 2 of these in the very near future, I'll be able to say that. All right, so that's been my first top 10. The next thing on the docket will be a review of a controversial book. So finally, I am going to be, because I haven't done one since my very first video, Robert Conquest, The Great Terror. So my next video will be on another controversial book.
My latest book is on the historicity of Jesus, and the significance of this, and I talked about it yesterday, was this idea that Jesus never really existed as a historical person.
All right, that's it. Take care for now.
I wouldn't believe it if I hadn't watched it.
Believe what?
I don't know. I wasn't watching.